Hello, everyone. We are back with another podcast episode. Today, we have a special guest again. This is because last time we did get the voice of Kinger. By the way, we did do that. And now, ladies and gents, we got the voice of Gangle herself, Marissa Lenti. How's it going?
Hi. Oh, it's going good. Thank you guys so much for having
Yo.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, and my cat is here too.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, of course, I forgot to introduce the co-hosts as well. Introduce yourselves if you can. One
All
of
right. I'll do it. Hey everyone, it's me, JackaL, back again for like my fourth or fifth show. I can't remember which one this is. But yeah, here today. Got up early for this.
dude, I woke up like 3 a.m. for this. Wait, no, I literally just stayed up.
3 a.m. Oh my goodness.
Actually, no, I stayed up. I put an all-nighter. I pulled an all-nighter because there was a stream happening at 3 a.m. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I just join in for like a few more hours, right?
Don't think that's healthy.
And I'm still energetic. I'm still ready. I'm still ready to
Yeah.
just ask some questions, which is crazy.
All right, Blue, you want to introduce yourself?
What's good, gamers? I'm gonna start uploading again, but yeah, we're gaming out here. Yeah, yeah, I make music, and yeah,
We all make music here. Yeah.
that's
That was
about it.
fire. That was fire.
Okay. So now we've got introductions ready. Now let's go to the main part. Let's go to the main part of the thing, which is the questions. I've already gathered every single question that I've got from Discord and Twitter. I don't think Instagram has any. Let me find it. Let me see it. It would be great if I could find it, but we do have Twitter and Discord. So let's ask the first few questions first. This is from me. Um, what was the first character you've ever voice acted?
First character ever. I was in a radio play when I was like 15 years old for a web comic called Slightly Damned, which is a web comic I was a big fan of at the time. I didn't want to be a voice actor back then. I just really wanted to be involved with something to do with one of my favorite web comics. So I auditioned for the character of Sakido, which is like a wind demon, and she's the elder sister of one of the main characters, and I booked it. And I recorded it on an awful laptop mic because again, I was not serious about voice acting at the time. Um, and it wasn't until many, many years later that I actually revisited voice acting and wanted to make it a career. But that was my first character in all technicality.
So you voiced a powerful being. That's, I mean, technically we have like that's insane actually.
Well, and it's funny too, because when I go back and listen to that audio, I can tell that I'm trying to do a voice that I do a lot now, which is, deep, powerful, demon-esque kind of voice. But I'm 15, so I literally can't do it the way that I can do it now. But I can hear my 15-year-old self trying very hard to do that
Yeah.
voice, and it's kind of weird to listen to.
Yeah, I had that problem too. It's I don't know, it's like just I feel like I've been doing voice acting for years too. So I get the feeling of like seeing your old self do like you know, a voice acting, like getting into a voice acting gig, it's like dude, it's so embarrassing at the same time like
I
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's like funny to go back on because you're like, oh, why was I like that? Why did I do that? But like, yeah, I mean, you always got to start somewhere. But like, it's just like looking back, it's like, oh, shame on me.
I cringe at my own YouTube videos. That's literally like literally everyone. I know everyone.
Same.
Yeah, everyone has cringed in like anything, right? Because I know they, I know they've cringed in their past. I know they're cringed about what they did like a month ago. It's yeah.
It's fine. We all have our moments.
We all have our moments. Yeah. You guys got any other questions? Because I got plenty more. But, I'm forwarding to you guys.
All right. Okay. So, I know I'm sort of jumping the gun here, but I do have a question. We're jumping ahead here in time. So, you've obviously kind of booked what is now like a massive media influence, hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. How do you think that's like left an influence on like your career? Like, has it done anything substantial for you yet in terms of, booking other projects and such?
So we're talking about Gangle now.
Yeah.
Yes. The Amazing Digital Circus, I mean, wow. First of all, was not expecting it to be that popular. I've never been in an indie animation before. So I'd always wanted to be. And so I'm very, very blessed for it to have been this one specifically, considering how well it's doing. What has changed for me is not super substantial thus far. It definitely shifted the landscape of what people approach me for. So like if I'm at a con, now I have a lot of kids coming up to me and they're talking about the Amazing Digital Circus. Whereas it used to be mostly adults and teens who would come up to me and it would be about my anime work or my work on Borderlands for the most part. So that changed a little bit. And now I get a lot more DMs and texts and stuff from kids who just want to show me, their crayon drawing of Gangle. And it's very, very sweet. So that's really nice. But as far as my career is concerned, not really. I think maybe if Gangle gets a focus episode, or a little bit more to do as the show moves forward, I could see it having a big impact on my career, because again, the show itself is huge. So if Gangle as a character does more in the future episodes, I wouldn't be surprised to see some influence on my career, and I would love that honestly, because the type of voice that I'm doing in the Amazing Digital Circus is a type of voice that I'm almost never hired for. That high-pitched, whiny sort of character. I almost never voice high-pitched characters in my other work. Most of the time when it comes to anime or video games, I'm very much regulated to the lower voiced characters. That's almost all of what I get called in for. So it would be nice to see some influence from Gangle insofar as like, oh, here's like a Gangle-esque character for you to voice. That would be a huge shift in the paradigm of my career. But we haven't seen it yet. And I think what would be required for it to have more of an influence would be a more Gangle focused episode. Because if clips of that episode started circulating in other professional spaces or like studio spaces, I could see it having an influence on the kind of characters that I'm called in for. But right now, no, nothing's changed.
Right.
Yeah, and I suppose like as you've said, like the show's yet to develop, and like seeing more clips of Gangle and more appearances, that'll definitely have more of an influence. But yeah, I guess only time can tell. Because I think going forward it'll be a massively large project. So let's
only
hope
hope.
it gets a little more exposure for Gangle.
Massively large. It's almost at 300 million, by the way.
Yeah.
So
It's insane.
Also, because I want to bring this up because you did say about a Gangle focused episode. I noticed that Glitch did post about a teaser about like what's gonna happen in the next few episodes. They did tease a few, right? They did tease.
I'm excited.
Yeah, they did tease a few, and they also teased a few more, like just screenshots of what the episode's gonna be like. And of course, Gangle's there, Kinger's there, everyone's there, and yeah, I think everyone's excited.
Everyone's there, mate.
Everyone's excited. I think
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
There's clearly like a large anticipation because like even though the show's only like a few months old at this point or however long it's been, but it developed so quickly that like people are just eager to see what comes next, especially like for the world building and characters that like because that's something that's been left in the dark so much. Especially with the characters, there's a lot of stuff that you can put in with like backstories and whatnot. So I'm kind of excited to see how that development comes forward across a period of time. But yeah, like I've said before, only time will tell. Because like even with the teasers we've got, like everyone's still on the edge of their seat. And yeah, it's something to look forward to even for everyone. Like in your case, like since you like voice a character, like you probably like may know a little bit more, but like I wanted to ask if like you sort of feel the same anticipation for like what comes next for the show.
Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Because regardless of if I get to like read the scripts ahead of time or anything,
Yeah. Yep. Noticed that.
especially especially with this particular show, reading the scripts only gives you so much information anyway. Um, there is so much that cannot be gleaned from the scripts of this show because it's so visual. There's so much going on that like I did not understand in episode 1. I couldn't even picture what the environments look like. So it was a matter of like I had to see it animated before I really understood what the show was about and like what the tone was and all of this stuff. So even if again, I'm being so vague, but even if I had all the scripts now, right, and I had already read all of them, I would still not understand where the show is going, I think. Because it needs that visual element for me to get the full impact of like, oh, like that's this episode. Like, okay, I get it. So like episode 2, I'm eagerly awaiting. I want to see it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I suppose from your standpoint it'd be interesting because like you obviously like of course like you said you read the scripts ahead of time, but it like I guess you'd be eager to see like how they actually implement what you've done because like in a lot of voice acting cases you're kind of like you're the first you have to like set the tone and the standard and then they develop off that, and that's kind of interesting to see because although they have all of this like pre-planned, the way you do it kind of like forces it in a direction, and I feel like that application of your work is kind of something that's really exciting to see. So yeah,
Mhm.
I can definitely see the anticipation on your part.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I was going to
Yeah.
say something. Okay. So, damn. God damn
on.
it, not again. Oh, yeah, wait. Okay, now I get it. Now I get it. So, the way that the thing that you brought up the fact that you only read the script, right? I think also Sean Chipwell also said this as well. Yeah, last stream. They also said he also said that he can't peep like what's going on, but he only knows like, oh, he has to read the script. That's the only thing that he knows. He's also anticipated. So like I'm guessing this is where everything is going on, right? So I feel like the way we see it, like I think that's exactly what voice acting is really. Like you don't know what's gonna happen to your characters that you voice, which is scary, but at the same time it's just like, it's voice acting. So,
Yeah, but I mean, especially like me and Sean, we both come from the anime space where you can know sometimes. If you voice an anime character and like the manga is complete, you can just go read the manga and find out exactly what happens to your character. And you can keep that stuff in mind as you're moving forward through the show. But this kind of show where it's being made as we're voicing it, yeah, it's a completely different dichotomy of like, okay, now you don't have the information. The only information I have is what Goose has decided to tell me about Gangle. And it's like, okay, this is your character, go. Whereas with anime, there's usually like a light novel or a manga or just the Japanese version of the show that you can go and watch and kind of get more of a sense of your character. When it comes to prelay or stuff that's being made original, you're sort of at the mercy of the creator, and they can kind of keep you in the dark intentionally if there's certain stuff they don't want you to know ahead of time. And I've done this too. Like when I direct shows, I'll sometimes tell the actors like, hey, please don't watch ahead. I am going to be feeding you the amount of information I want you to know about your character as we move through. So like there was one show I directed where one of the characters had a terminal illness, and the only people I told were him and the two actors who were playing the characters who knew that he had that terminal illness. All the other characters were supposed to be in the dark, so I didn't tell any of them until the episode where he died. And so I got these really great genuine reactions of people being like, I am legitimately upset and surprised right now. So there's a benefit to keeping your actors slightly in the dark. So I can understand why it's like that. But yeah, it does build that anticipation of like, I want to know so badly.
Yeah.
I feel like that also like stacks like the legitimacy of how like you feel like think a character would feel in that situation, because if you're because you're kind of putting like the people in those roles in their shoes, and
Exactly.
it really sets like a standard of like, you're really getting into character, I think is what I'm trying to say. And it kind of makes the scenes and just the experiences a little bit more enjoyable, both for an audience and for the production team as a whole, because you're really expressing the media as you want it. So it's very sincere, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. This, I think, because I'm also asking this, right? Because I feel like you have a similar experience to another voice acting thing you did with Financier Cookie. I feel like you have the same thing because they have never written anything. They've, never written anything in the past, and it's just very new. I think it's the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I had no idea what was coming up in that story. I could not have predicted how intense and serious the Cookie Run Kingdom story gets. I was like, oh, this is not what I thought Cookie Run Kingdom was going to be like. And Financier Cookie, I mean, she's very serious, but there's a lot of wacky characters in that story. So I was like, okay, it's going to be like a wacky, goofy time. No, dead serious Cookie story. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But that's the thing that intrigued me so much about Cookie Run Kingdom. Cookie Run Kingdom is like one of my favorite things I've ever worked on. Not only because that client, Dev Sisters, is so nice, but like one of my best friends directed me on that, and Financier Cookie is just like a fun character, and their social media team is so nice. Like, and the story was really good, like surprisingly good. So I was just like, that was like a total package of like a great experience for me. But yeah, it was like totally blindsided, totally took me by surprise. I was not expecting that.
Like, yeah, no, because like we see characters such as like, the character that just looks like Ginger Brave or like Angel Cookie, and we thought, oh, this is just gonna be like some silly little cookie thing, right? It's just gonna be cookie running, yeah. But then you just see like many lore about it, and I'm like, bro, no way this is about this. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's such a surprising story, yeah. Like,
it's cool to have those subverted expectations, because like you're kind of like, it sets like a standard, and then you just completely throw it out the window, and then they bring in something new. I'm like, oh boy, that's intriguing. Uh-oh.
like we just see a cookie running, and then we see a cookie's death. Like, bro, there is no way. But yeah, it's pretty cool though. It's pretty awesome to see, like, games, shows that just does that, like expand their lore to their limits. It's pretty cool to see those type of shows and games as well. It's awesome.
I agree.
Yep.
Anyways, now let's move on to the next segment. So, I know you haven't really said anything about this, but what got you into voice acting? Like, what exactly did get you into voice acting, really?
Yeah, let me tell you the story. So like I mentioned, I had done voice acting one time when I was a teenager, and I wasn't particularly interested in it. I just happened to. And then I sort of put it down for a long, long time. I was a child actor around that same time. I had been doing on camera and on stage stuff, but I kind of stopped doing it because I didn't like to be perceived. I did not like having to be up on stage myself, and I did not like having to be on camera myself. So I kind of stopped acting for a while. And then when I was in college, I had gone to college I had applied as a writer, as a creative writing major. And then I ended up changing my major to costume design. And I ended up not liking that either. So I was searching for, my calling essentially. I could not figure it out. I did not like anything that I was doing. And it ended up being that I was just hanging out with my roommates, watching anime. And my friend showed me Detective Conan. And as we're watching it, I was like, these English voice actors, they must be here in America, right? They've all got American accents. This is a job that you can do in America. There must be a way for, like, I could get in on this. I was like, I used to be an actor. I could do this. And so I started researching and figured out what voice acting was and how you got into it and how where you had to go in order to get involved. And I was like, okay, this is my life plan. And I switched my major to acting, or theater studies rather, is what it says on my degree. And I started voice acting from home. I got a little home set up. I started doing indie games and stuff like that. And then I moved to Texas to pursue voice acting, specifically to work with Funimation. And within like a year, I managed to make it happen. And I went full time.
Hell yeah. All right. That's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always cool because like it's cool to hear a story where it's like you're jumping around and then you finally find that calling. And like being in voice acting, it's like it's a really cool thing. And especially like because you had such like a basic like sort of idea of what you wanted to do from the start because you just saw an anime. But I feel like hearing that jump, it kind of sets like a standard of like, oh, pretty much anyone can do this. It's just like you need to put your mind to it and put in that time and research, and then you studied what you had to study and you got into it, and now look at you've already got all these massive gigs. So I feel like it kind of it kind of sets like a pretense for everyone else on like how to do it. And that's really cool.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, anyone can do it. It is I wouldn't call it an accessible industry. There's a lot of like hoops you have to jump through to become one of the actors who is considered for stuff, because they have to be very secretive about this kind of stuff. They don't share auditions, for example, willy-nilly. But if you have an acting background and you go to these studios and you're like, hey, I exist, it is possible to get in and, get started. And I got started, my first gig was Tokyo ESP. It was a show called Tokyo ESP. I did like background chatter, but my first named character role ever was in Fairy Tale, which I considered quite a big title. So for it to be my first character, like I was over the moon,
That's actually quite impressive. That's a massive like jumping feat, because Fairy Tale is like a pretty big piece of media.
Yeah.
So being able to like get into that so quickly is actually quite that's actually quite impressive.
It really is.
Yeah, if I remove like unnamed bit parts and like background chatter, because I did quite a bit of that at the beginning of my career. If I remove all of that and I just look at my first 3 named characters in order, it was Fairy Tale, One Piece, and Attack on Titan. So getting started as a brand new voice actor, I was floored by the fact that those 3 being my first 3 titles was even possible. I was really, really thankful for that. But I was really, really shocked as well. I thought like, oh, I surely I'll start with like tiny anime, like little harem, whatever anime, and then I'll sort of upgrade. But it really didn't go that way at all. It was more about where they needed people, and where they needed people were in shows with huge casts. They were like, we're always looking for new people because these shows are so big. There's so many characters, that you could play a tiny character in a big show before you play a big character in a tiny show. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And so like I had these what felt like huge shows under my belt, but it was many, many years before I played the lead in a show, even though it was a less popular show. There she is. There's my girl.
I just slowly raised my phone up.
Let me tell you though, like that's one hell of a resume. Like being able to like chuck shows like that, just like saying, oh, I had a part in that. Even if it's something little, being able to like partake in something like that, because you have such a wide range of like fandoms that like they're so hooked onto it, and then being able to be like, wow, I was a part of that. That's gonna be something like so cool. And progressively, you just build up the portfolio, and like you might become a little indifferent to it, but in the end, like the massive scope of influence that you can actually leave, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I try not to lose sight of the fact that it's cool. Like, it's been many, many years since I booked Fairy Tale and since I booked One Piece and since I booked Attack on Titan. I've been in this industry like 10 years at this point. But I'm still so grateful for those early directors for taking a chance on me and for giving me. I mean, they're still some of my most popular characters. Like, even though it's been years and years and years, Libra, which is my fairy tale character, is still one of my most popular roles that people come up to me at cons and they're like, oh my God, Libra. And I'm like, that's my first character, So I try not to lose sight of it. And the other important thing to remember that I'm always talking to new actors about is like, regardless of how big or small you think a role is, every show has the potential to be someone's favorite, and every character within that show has the potential to be someone's favorite. So you have to take every role very seriously, because even if you're like, oh my God, it's like a nothing role, it's like some random character that has like 2 lines. It's like, but that might be like the cameo of a character that was like a little bit bigger in the manga, and like someone might care a lot about that character. So like, do your best regardless of what it is. So I always look back on those and I go like, I just hope I did my best. And I hope that like, when people revisit those really old performances of mine, that they're still good after time has gone by. Yeah, again, I'm still really grateful to those directors who gave me that chance. And I still work with a lot of those guys. Like the guy who cast me in One Piece is also the guy who cast me in Borderlands 3, which is debatably the biggest role of my career. So those relationships are also very valuable insofar as like I really value those directors, not just as people I can work with and people who obviously get my career to keep going, but also as friends. It is really nice. It's an insular industry which has its ups and downs and its pros and cons, but it can be nice. Just there's a sense of community, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think maintaining that mindset whilst also remaining humble is one of the most like integral things about being in a massive industry like this. And it's so important because like you said, you're kind of like a role model, and you might be someone's favorite. So it's really important to uphold that. But like with that in mind, like even with that, like have you ever been like extremely eager to like voice someone that you haven't yet? Like, is there any like particular character that you wanted to get or want to get in future for voice acting?
Yeah. I want to voice a Digimon so badly. I don't care which one particularly, although my stream chat, my audience, they really want me to voice Jellymon in Digimon Ghost Game, which I would be extremely, extremely honored to voice her. But kind of any of them. As long as I'm not replacing somebody, like I would want to voice a new Digimon, one who hasn't had an English voice before, just because I like setting the voice for things. It's fun. It's one of the most fun parts of the job. I want to be a Digimon so badly. It's my favorite franchise of all time. And hilariously, I actually just directed a bunch of Digimon things that are going to be coming this year. The Digimon, the movie redubs of Digimon movies 1 to 3, the Digimon movie collection that's coming out from Discotek. I directed that, and I reworked the scripts. I wouldn't go so far as to say I wrote the scripts, because a lot of it is just reworked from the original Digimon the movie dub. So I had an opportunity there, to cast myself as one of the Digimon, but I was like, no, I must get back the entire legacy cast. So I let that opportunity sort of slip through my fingers, even though it is my dream role. But I'm patient. I'm very patient. I will wait until my true opportunity comes to voice one that I would not be taking away from another actor. You know, I want to be the original voice
Yeah, yeah.
of one of these guys. So fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like having like from that point of view, like being able to like direct that, I understand like not wanting to like put yourself into those shoes because it's like, oh wow, there's the opportunity here to like present like everyone back in their old roles and then just have it like redone in your own way. But yeah, I personally I think Digimon's pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely cool like having like someone that you really want to be able to get into, like even if you don't ever get that opportunity, having that as like a goal or an idea just to have it's definitely important because it keeps you it keeps your ball rolling because you're like, oh well, maybe eventually, like even with all this work that I'm doing, it's awesome, but eventually maybe I'll actually get to be able to do this as well, which would be really cool. So
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. It's good to have a dream. Even if it doesn't amount to anything in the end, it's good to have a dream.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just another way to keep yourself going.
Like every
So,
like
yeah,
every
it's good fun.
like every person has a dream. I mean, like mainly like for like voice actors, like singers, like those type of people. They have a dream to work on something they want to work on. Like I see so many people having dreams of that. Like, and then when they achieve it, they're just like so happy to get it, and it just it's makes me really happy to see people wanting to get those roles so bad, and it's just like, man, you deserve it and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, well, a good thing with like the whole acting scene, it's like, okay, I've just done this like massive thing I've always wanted to do. What's the next thing that I can shoot for? Obviously, while staying humble for it, but like it's always like expansive on the goals and dreams you can set because there's so much out there that you can do. Whether it be for a big media or not, it's just like it's expansive, and you could do it like for such a long time, and it's good fun always. So yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is a question coming from Ash with the ad Gamma 2's husband on Twitter. Yeah, that's a name. So this is connected to the thing I said before, but I planned this before they asked it. But they did ask an extra question, which is if there's any tips for beginner voice actors to begin, their voice acting career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially nowadays, if you are a beginning voice actor, the most important thing, and I already kind of said this, is community, but specifically the indie and voice acting community. There is what I would call an indie voice acting generation, I guess. And I would say that it's kind of my generation of voice actors who started on like Newgrounds and the Voice Acting Alliance forums, and we're sort of, now the pros of tomorrow, right? Again, it's been like 10 years since I started, so I'm a little over the hill on this, but there is now a new generation of indie voice actors who are on the come up, and they're coming up right behind us. And they mostly hang out. There is a Discord that I recommend everybody join, called Voice Acting Club, and there they talk and they share tips and they share tricks, and they also share auditions that they find on the internet. Like indie auditions that they find. Yes. You want to be in this Discord. You want to be meeting your fellow indie voice actors because, again, I do see voice acting as a generational thing. Generations of voice actors, they kind of develop alongside each other. They recommend each other. The rising tide raises all ships. And then the next generation comes up and they all sort of become pros at the same time. I don't know why it works this way, but it does. So it is a good idea to get to know your generation, to get to know your community. And again, rising tide raises all ships. So once you're in that Discord, you're meeting people, you're making friends. The hope is that they will recommend you for stuff as they start to go pro, and you will be nice and recommend them for stuff as you start to go pro. And you all sort of help each other, and that's how these generations thrive and become professionals. So definitely get in the Voice Acting Club Discord. There are auditions being posted there every day. Try out for everything. Listen to your fellow indie voice actors as they help you like set up your home studio and improve your audio quality and all that kind of stuff. And then once you've done that and you're
JackaL, take notes.
Yeah, everyone take notes on this.
once you're in there and you're auditioning and stuff, in order to raise your chances, the other thing I would recommend that people do is take acting classes. Not specifically voice acting classes. I want to make that so clear. Voice acting classes are for later. You know, if you think of it like a college, your 101 course, your initial course that you take in your freshman year is just basic acting. You want to take like theater acting or very basic acting 101. Then you can move into specialties and you can kind of ignore film if you're never going to do it. And you can kind of ignore improv if you're never going to do it. And then you can go to voice acting. So start with theater, start with basic acting, acting 101, and then you can jump to voice acting workshops. Do not start with voice acting workshops. You will get nothing out of them if you're not already an actor. You want to be an actor first, a voice actor second. It is a specialty of acting. It is not its own craft.
Yeah, you've really got to start like with a foundation before you ever try to jump the gun on stuff, because I feel like a lot of mistakes that people make these days, like it's definitely like they try to rush into the scene, whereas you know, if you actually have that experience and like you said, that sense of community and all the people that can help you get into the scene, it's definitely easier to help you actually get around and, you know, be known for your work. So yeah.
Exactly. I myself, well, still thinking about it, you know, because like I do have voice acting, you know, like I do voice act some characters, but at the same time, I'm like looking into like other opportunities that I can find. Like for example, I could go for like music, I could go for like animating, I could go for like coding a game. I could go like anywhere I go because I'm still on that age where I'm just like figuring out what to do next. So yeah, to hear about this voice acting thing is like kind of just like inspires me more to see what kind of like skill I can do in terms of voice acting in general, which is like pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I love and that I really recommend indie voice actors do, it's my favorite pastime nowadays, actually, even though I am, you know, I'm not new anymore. But my favorite pastime right now is to stream read throughs of games where we pick a game that has a lot of dialogue but no voice acting, and me and a bunch of friends get in a Discord call and we all assign each other roles and then we read through it. And you don't have to stream it, I guess you could just do it amongst friends. It is so fun, and it's such a good acting exercise because you are coming up with voices on the fly as new characters appear. You know, you're like, oh, I'll take this one, and you have to come up with a new voice immediately. You're reading the script as it comes up. There's no preparation. You're just cold reading, cold reading, cold reading. And you and your friends get to act off of each other and build on each other's energy, which is something you usually don't get to do in proper professional voice acting. In professional voice acting, very often you're just in a booth by yourself, pretending how the other people might read their lines so that you can respond to them. Getting to practice where you actually have the full cast on a call together is so valuable because it allows you to get better at that like cold reading and cold reaction. So I love it. We just did a full read through of a game called In Stars in Time on my friend's channel, and it was one of the most fun things I have ever done as an actor. And it wasn't even like a professional official thing. It was just us screwing around on a Discord call, you know? And now we're doing one of Hot to Full Boyfriend, which is one of my favorite visual novels. And it's great practice. It's like, you know, doing a live table read. I highly recommend newer voice actors. If you have a group of friends who are all voice actors, this is a great exercise. Just get in a Discord call and read through a game together. It is so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. because we
Yeah,
we did.
I remember I was
Yeah.
I'll ask first. It's because I
Also,
did.
I'm just gonna say right. I'm just
Go ahead. Just say it first.
just gonna say right now. I have to.
Okay. Well, let's go.
Oh, okay. Okay, well.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
As you were saying, as
Can I ask first? Can I ask
so
first?
I recently. Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
so
Go ahead.
okay,
Yeah.
So like a few hours ago, which is the stream that I mentioned, we did this like Mario Party game, right? And then of course they don't really have voice lines in general. So like yeah, so like me and a few people were like actually just voicing the peeps in the game. And it was actually, and I can safely say, I can vouch, it is fun. It is fun to do it. It is pretty cool considering, you're practicing your voice acting skills more and more. It's pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a few weeks ago, I was streaming and I got a channel point redemption from one of my chatters to play a game, and I played this like weird game. It was called this was for shits and giggles. It was called Angels with Scaly Wings. It's some like weird like dragon murder mystery game, right? But the characters had no voices, and my chat was like, please read the characters in different voices, and it was like so weird, but it's good fun and it's good experience to like train your voice as you were mentioning. So like getting into like exactly as you said, getting into a game and just like having the fun of reading it with other people if you have friends there. It's a great experience both for you, but just in terms of training in general. So it's good fun. And yeah, I think it's a great experience.
Yeah, totally.
I had another question.
Mhm.
So basically, I wanted to ask, do you have like any, so like you've obviously worked with many voice actors. What do you like, who do you think's like do you have any like preferences to work with, or is there any like voice actors that you're influenced by, or like, is there any like characters that you admire because of the voice acting work, or?
Well, that's a lot of different things. Um, when it comes to actors I like to work with, just anyone who's nice and chill to work with. I work with a lot of different voice actors to the point where like the stuff that I cast will end up having completely different casts from each other. There's not many actors that I use over and over and over and over again. Very often everything that I cast ends up with a completely different cast. So it's hard to like name off people because there's so many people. But just actors who are nice. I anyone who's like kind and genuinely excited to be there, like I love that. And one of my favorite things to do is to combine what I again call generations of actors. So one of my favorite things to do is to, like you said, actors who inspire me. There are a lot. I love to take actors from that generation, put them in my show alongside newer people from my generation or even newer, and sort of get to hear them play off against each other. It's one of my favorite things because it's combinations that no one's ever heard before. So like I directed a show called Arte, where the two leads were Felicia Angel, who is a very, very prolific Texas-based voice actor, or isn't in Texas anymore, but started her career mostly in Texas. And Gianni Matragrano, who is like one of my favorite, like Newgrounds era, newer voice actors. And hearing them interact with each other is so interesting and cool. And then I sprinkled in a bunch more actors that were like that I love. Anyone who appeared in like OG Pokemon, Digimon, or Yu-Gi-Oh are like I love those dubs. I love them terribly. Like Indigo Plateau, Indigo League, like era Pokemon. So Wayne Grayson is in that, who's the voice of Joey Wheeler. Doug Erholtz is in that, who played TK in Digimon Season 2. Michael Sorich, who is one of the directors of Digimon and voiced like a lot of the Digimon characters. And Erica Schroeder, who was one of the voices of My Valentine, again from Yu-Gi-Oh. They are all sprinkled into that dub. And so getting to work with all of them was like a huge treat for me because again, I look up to that generation of voice actors so much, like from the 90s, you know, guys who were in shows that I watched when I was a kid. Cause I was like, I don't know, between like 8 to 10 when those kinds of shows were on TV. So hugely influential on me, hugely influential on me. So like those actors really inspire me. I love getting to work with them just because it's cool. But then, you know, just any voice actor who's nice, they don't have to have a huge resume. They don't have to have been in something that I recognize or that I remember from when I was a kid. I am totally willing, and all the time I do this, to take a gamble on someone who's brand new, as long as they are genuine, they're sweet, they want to do the work, they're like here to do a good job. And then I just mix them up and I get to come out with something that's really cool. And I also like, I'm fine with bringing people in from other industries. On Tribe 9, I had Corpse Husband, who is a rapper, and a former streamer at this point, play the main villain character. And to me, it was one of the most fun performances I could remember in a while. And I loved hearing him interact with all of the, workaday voice actors that were in that cast. And then on Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple OVAs that are coming out soon, they're available for pre-order now. I had Brennan Williams, who is like a former wrestler, or like I think he's currently wrestling actually, and a former football player, in as one of the wrestler characters, like a wrestler playing a wrestler, and like that kind of like interesting authenticity and like it's just so fun to me. I really love taking those kinds of risks and getting other people from other industries involved, and they can bring like new perspectives and new voices. And as long as, they're doing a good acting job, which both of them did, they both had like a little bit of acting chops in their, they have acting experience in their past. So they came with acting chops already. And I was like, as long as they have that, it's so interesting to mix them in with the people who, are voice acting in like tons and tons of stuff. You get to hear like a new voice that you never really hear in this arena interacting with these other characters. And it's, to me, it's just the coolest thing. So I love that. That's my favorite thing when it comes to like actors to work with, is like really anybody from across the board. They can be brand new, they can be from another industry, or they could be like the legacy people, like the stars that I always looked up to. And then I just put them all in a big pot and I mix them up. And what you hope to get out the other side, and what I'm always trying to go for, is a unique sounding show every time. When I direct anime, I don't want people to be like, oh, it's basically the cast of X show, but like again, in this show. I want it to be like, I've never heard this particular group of actors interact with each other, but they're all great, That's what I'm going for every time I make a show. I want it to have a unique soundscape. And that means like taking these actors that I love, that I looked up to, and also taking new actors and sort of just jumbling them all up. It's like my favorite thing. I could rant about it forever. I think I got a little off topic of your question, but hopefully I answered it well enough.
Oh yeah, no, that was perfect. I definitely think the idea of like intertwining those, the different industries, the different generations, it opens up the scope so much more. And like you said, having different casts and like, just across the board, everything just a little bit different between projects. It just like it adds more room for people to develop their skills, and overall it's just, it's good fun because you get to hear the different influences from different people. They give their own standards of advice. They bring their own stuff to the table, and that's like exactly what you want in a project, because it just makes everything so much more enjoyable and more hooking, especially like for either side, be it the audience or the people working on the production.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Yeah.
we're going to the next question.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make the next question. So, this is I don't think this question was asked really, because I was pretty much deafened for like a bit of a few seconds. I don't know what happened to Discord there, but I want to ask, who do you think, right, out of the voice actors you know, is the next one to rise up, you know, like to be well known in the voice acting industry?
It's hard to say because in my mind, greatness is not always inherently rewarded. There are many, many, many voice actors who, in my opinion, should already be famous. You know, again, Gianni Montegrano was the lead of one of my shows. Fabulous voice actor. Oz Ryan has been my lead before. Fabulous voice actor. I just did the not that long ago, the dub of Gunbuster came out. My lead in that was also brand new, Kyan Chilla King. And I'm just like, she should be going places. She should be like massive. She's so talented. She gave me so much energy, like screaming and going so intense for this character. Um, you know, these are people that I feel should be like the next big thing. But because of the unfortunate randomness of this industry sometimes greatness does get overlooked. So I don't think I could point to one person and be like, they're the next big thing because they're talented, because it very rarely works out that way. It's very much right place, right time. These actors need to stumble in to a role that kind of puts them on the map, and that's impossible to predict. Some of the people who are doing the best in this industry right now are doubtlessly very talented actors, but no one could have pointed to them and be like, oh, it's definitely going to be them. There is a element of randomness to everyone's success. So I can't really say who I think is the next big thing. But again, I mean, I just named off 3 people who I think deserve to be the next big thing, you know? Just a fabulous, lovely voice actors to work with who are so talented and so good at their craft that I'm crossing my fingers for them and I'm cheering for them, but I couldn't say with certainty what's going to happen next, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, like you said, you need to take it as it comes, especially for these types of roles. Like you can always want a person to exceed and do well, but yeah, exactly as you said, like you have to just like hope that a role takes you places, because like you might have all of this influence with your projects and like you might be recognized, but it's different to when you actually start to like blow up and get immediately recognized, because usually you don't get that from like random small medias. You have to have like a pretense set by the series, but typically like you can never predict it, as you said. So yeah.
Right there. So now, let's bring someone in, shall we? Because I did see Bree did raise up, you know, their hand. So why not we get a question from them and see what will happen.
Yeah,
All right,
Bree, if you wanna
Bree,
raise your
you.
hand.
Oh no! Oh God! All right. Anyways, you got any
Hello.
questions?
Oh yes. I'm recently interested in voice acting. Recently, Melissa, you actually inspired me, and I've seen your work before
Mm.
Thank you.
in Attack on Titan, and in that one episode that you were casted in, really inspired me.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
now recently discovering that you are in the Amazing Digital Circus, it was like amazing to discover you again.
Right.
Very unexpected, but yes. Okay, here's my question. Um, for new voice, I don't know if you answered this question already, but for new voice actors who are interested in voice acting, where would be the right place to start?
Yeah, I mentioned this a little earlier, but the thing that I keep on recommending to people, take acting classes, first of all. Theater acting classes are the best. If you are in school, like do your school theater stuff, like try out for school plays. Or if there's a community theater in your city that or town, could be a great thing to get involved with. And then the voice acting club Discord is where I recommend all new voice actors go to meet their community, get auditions, trade tips and tricks, get help. It is a fabulous resource. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, actors of quote unquote my generation mostly came up on a forum called the Voice Acting Alliance that has been defunct for some time now. So that, the old ways are dead, unfortunately. So this Discord kind of rose from the ashes, and it's run by Kira Buckland, who is, a very, very prolific voice actor. So it's legit.
Yes.
And she's fabulous at running it, and that's why I feel very comfortable directing people there. So that is where I tell everybody to go first. It is an excellent place to get started, and I would not be surprised if the next generation of voice actors who go pro cite that as their starting place, the same way that people of my generation cite Voice Acting Alliance as their starting place.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you for that.
All right.
Of course. Thank you for your question.
All right. I guess I could bring you back down there because yes.
Bye.
You have a
Nice
piece-
meeting
Bye.
you.
you have
Hi, nice meeting you. Lovely talking to you, Marissa.
Yes, thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Puppetflip, do we have another Twitter question or something?
No, that was the Twitter question. But do you have any?
I actually indeed do. So in terms of voice acting, do you see it as something that's filled with longevity? Like, do you see yourself working in voice acting for a long time, or is it something that you might have to consider exiting at some point?
I hope I could do it for a long time. The weird thing about voice acting right now is because this generational thing is so new. It feels like, especially for in the anime space, obviously in the cartoon space, there are tons of voice actors that have been in the industry for a million years. And this is not an issue in Looney Tunes or Disney or whatever. But when you're specifically talking about anime and people who are willing to do anime voice acting, not a lot of old people. And that's a huge issue when you're trying to cast things, like a wise old wizard will show up and you're like, okay, I know two older guys who are in their 70s or 80s who are still around and are still voice acting. But then if a second old wizard shows up, you're like, uh-oh, it's going to start getting a little dicey. And if a third one shows up, oh no. I cast a show called Kageki Shoujo that had a lot of characters who I would consider middle-aged and older. And it was hard at a certain point. I wouldn't say I was ever scraping the bottom of the barrel because I actually ended up getting a lot of fabulous voices in that show. But what did end up happening was I was having to call people up. I was calling up people and be like, do you have a friend of a friend who's an older voice actor? I'm looking for real, not young people putting on old voices. I'm looking for actors who've been in this industry a while and who are older. Do you know anybody? Can you contact anybody? And it ended up working out great where I was getting recommendations of oh yeah, you should get so-and-so. They used to be in Central Park Media Dubs and it was really, really good. You should get them involved. And I was like, yeah, I would love that. So I got a lot of really great, fabulous voice actors, but it took a lot of extra legwork on my part. So I would love to be in this industry kind of forever and do it forever, to make the jobs of the future directors easier. They could come to me and they could be like, can you voice all these old ladies for us when I'm in my 70s and 80s? And I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. I would love to be that for the future generation of directors. But it can be hard because a lot of the people that I have talked to, especially women, and feminine people in general, they say ageism is an issue where their careers drop off after a certain age. They'll be like, once I hit my 50s, they stopped casting me even though I sound the exact same and I can still voice teenagers or whatever. So it's an issue that I am sure I will be hit by. There is, a very high possibility it will happen to me. So as I get older, it's possible that I won't be able to do it as my main job, I'd like to always be available,
Yeah.
and if people again need old ladies voiced, I want them to be able to come to me. But I am very well aware of the fact that as I get older, I need to be thinking about other revenue streams. So I've started streaming. I'm a VTuber, as you can see, and I really, really love it. It's really, really fun. And in fact, like sometimes I am like, oh, I'm like enjoying this even more. Depending. So I'm like, okay, thing I could do, but like, can I keep doing that well into retirement age? I don't think that that's it doesn't have that kind of longevity either. So yeah, I'm very well aware of the fact that like, as much as I want to voice act forever, probably won't be able to do it as my full-time job forever. But I'm sort of rolling with the punches. What the future may bring, it will bring. So I'm streaming right now, and I'm voice acting, and I'm directing, and I'm script writing, but I'm very aware of the fact that as I get older, I may be forced to change. Not because I want to or because I dislike voice acting or anything, but just because the opportunities might stop coming. So it's in fate's hands,
Yeah.
just like 70-year-old Marissa just working at a grocery store and talking to people being in voices.
Yeah. But yeah, now I just realized something. This podcast has been going on like more than Sean's episode. So that's insane. So
I'm a chatty Cathy. I can fill time.
you can do that. So now we're moving on to the final batch of questions, because maybe JackaL, I think you do also have some final batch of questions. How many do you even have?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever though. So this isn't really a really important question, but this is more of a casual one, just something to ask someone. So yeah, out of everyone in the cast, excluding Gangle, who do you think is your favorite out of them all?
Favorite. It's hard to name a favorite because it is like picking between children sometimes. And also the answer can change, sometimes I'm vibing on a different frequency. One of my favorites, I mean, she couldn't not be one of my favorites. My only lead character that I've ever played, where I'm not just part of the main cast, but I am the lead, is Yuna from Kuma 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 Bear. And I cherish that role so much for being my first and only lead character. And also, it's a very cute little show, and she's a funny character. She's got this very hot topic cashier vibe about her, where she totally doesn't want to be there, and she's very sassy, that I quite like. And she's also, I mean, she's very much me. It's not a difficult voice for me to do. It's like me circa age 15, just me imitating my teenage self. That is like very easy to play her and very fun, and it just sort of flows. So she's one of my favorites for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think you prefer being in the spotlight as a lead role, or do you prefer being on like the sideline as a side character?
Well, maybe my answer would change if I had played more lead characters, but right now, all I really want is to play a lead again, because it was quite fun. And it is the more rare thing for me. But, it's possible it's a grass is always greener sort of situation, where if I play a lot of lead characters, maybe my answer would change. But for now, I think, I would prefer, or I would enjoy being the lead again and getting to experience it again.
That totally makes sense, yeah. I mean, it's really fun being the lead character, because even though you'll have many voice lines, like the most voice lines out of them all, it's gonna be like, fun still. It's gonna be really fun to voice a character that is very well known in the series. And yeah.
And not only that, but also like when you play the lead character in something, generally you get more emotional insight into them than any other character. You know, like getting to do things like scenes where the character gets angry or where the character breaks down or is nervous or cries. That's so much more likely if you are the lead. Again, I was talking about In Stars and Time earlier, but when we did the read through of that on stream, I was playing the lead character. And that character goes through so much in that game that I got to explore like the emotional depth of the character, and I was living it, and I was in, I was in those situations, and I was acting, and I was having fun. That experience is a lot harder when you're playing a side character. Even if you put so much work into it, and even if they get one or two good scenes, there's just going to be less to chew on because there's just less content if you're a side character. Whereas the lead character, it's more likely that the game will go inside their head and you'll hear their thoughts and get all this insight. There's just more to chew on when you're playing the lead. And so you can get really, really invested in their story. Whereas with a side character, it can also be very quick when you're a side character. Sometimes you come in, you record for 2 hours and they're done and you never voice them again. And you're like, well, yeah, I really liked it, but like, I have nothing to say. Like there was no, emotional journey. I went in, I did it and I left. But with a lead, I voiced Yuna for years, between the first and second season. So she's very, very important to me. Or in Stars and Time, even though I did not voice that character officially, we still spent 6 streams in that character's thoughts. And I was voicing this character's thoughts and like, fears and innermost like turmoils. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like as an actor, that's the stuff you really want to dig into, and it's fun and it's interesting. So it's not just about like, oh yeah, being the most popular character, although of course that's fun. You get to go to an event, and if you're the lead character, obviously people are going to come up to you and want to meet you and say hi. And that's really fun because I love going to cons and I love meeting people. But just as an emotional fulfillment thing, as an actor, your craft is so much easier to do and so much more fulfilling when you have the character who has the most meat. You have the most meat at the feast. And so, yeah, having done it once and also pseudo done it on like streams where I've played the main character unofficially for stuff. It's very enticing. And I would love to do it again. Absolutely.
Totally. I can understand that really well. But yeah, honestly, that wasn't okay. So I was gonna say, right, what is your favorite character in TADC excluding Gangle? So this is like just the whole cast itself.
Probably Jax.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which I feel like is such a basic answer, but here's the thing. Michael Kovac is one of my favorite, what I would call quote unquote an indie voice actor, although he's been doing some great like pro stuff lately. But very well known in the indie space, right? So talented.
Yeah.
One of those actors who, again, like deserves so much, deserves to be a rising star. And I would like to see like be in so much more stuff, but is in like every indie pilot because he's just that good. And listening to his performance as Jax, I'm just charmed. It's just a charming performance where I'm just like, I love you, Michael Kovac. I love that you're playing this character. I'm obsessed. And also our characters have a dynamic. Like Gangle is going to have a dynamic with other characters, but in episode 1, it's pretty much just Jax that she really gets to have any sort of dynamic with. So I'm immediately attached to that, the fact that our characters interact with each other. And I'm just like, oh, yay, me and Michael's characters interact. So like I'm attached to Jax mostly for metatextual reasons, but still, I would say Jax. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's like other characters such as like Kinger as well that have interacted with Gangle somewhat,
Somewhat, but you don't get an idea of their dynamic so much because like Kinger speaks to Gangle, but Gangle doesn't really speak back
Yeah.
quite yet. So I'd be interested to see more about that dynamic, but there's not too much just yet. But so yeah, for me it's Jax right now, but maybe it'll change. Who knows?
Yeah, that dynamic was crazy. Okay, so I am like a first time, like, you know, like when the thing released, I was like one of the first few that's seen it, right? And seeing it grow, right? During the growth of it, I saw like many ship arts, many ship arts. It's literally
Ew.
insane, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ew.
And mostly, there's like most of this is Gangle and Kinger. Like that's the first, that's the
Ew.
first half of them, by the way. That's the first half, and then it.
They got a crazy age gap.
True, it is.
Oh.
But
That's a crazy age gap. I mean, once you become adults, it matters a lot less.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have seen almost every combination of characters at this point, as far as ship art is concerned, except Kane. I don't think I've seen Gangle with Kane, which is probably fine.
yeah.
Because that's a little bit of a weird dynamic.
Mm,
But it's so interesting how people expound upon the information in the pilot to try and come up with what these characters' relationships might be like. I think it's really, really interesting. And I wonder what the feeling will be once their actual dynamics start being shown in later episodes. I wonder if people will like the reality of the situation of some of these ships.
yeah.
It's very interesting. I can't wait to see.
Yeah. It's also funny because there's this one moment in the fan base, right? It's in the middle, where Kane is being shipped by the moon, like being shipped with the moon from the thing as well. And then people call it Bluetooth, and it was filled with just that. The word Bluetooth was just filled with that. And I was like, bro.
Oh god.
I was laughing. It was crazy. It's
The fan base is wild.
yeah, it's crazy what a fan base can do, really. But yeah. Now, besides TADC, what is your favorite character in general? Like, it doesn't, mean that you voice them or anything, just your favorite character in general out of every series that you know.
Overall, it's hard because again, my answer, just like if you ask my favorite character to voice, it's going to be tinged a little bit by what I have done in recent memory. Yuna comes to mind because we just did season 2 of Kuma 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 Bear. So if you ask me that right now, who my favorite character is of all time, it's going to be tinged by what I have just done. So right now, I'm hyper fixated on In Stars in Time, the game that we did a read through of. And right now, my favorite character from In Stars in Time is a character named Loop. And I'm obsessed with Loop. I think about Loop constantly. I'm looking at fan art of Loop on my second screen right now. I love them. I love them terribly. But for a much longer time, I again, my favorite franchise of all time is Digimon. My favorite character from Digimon is Davis. I had a crush on him when I was a little girl. And I was super hyper fixated on him like 5 months ago, 6 months ago when we did the redubs of the movies. I was just like, oh my God, my love for Davis has been reignited. My son, my child, I love him. Now my relationship is very different with him because he's still a child and I have gotten older.
Yeah.
But he's my little son. I love him. So yeah, them too, I suppose. But again, if you ask me this question several months from now, my answer might change because I might be hyper fixated on something new. But right now, I mean, I'm in love with Loop from In Stars in Time. They are excellent. They're like this sassy star person. who is like the tutorial character, but then also like assists you on your way for the rest of your journey. And they're very sassy and they're a little bit mean. And I love them. They're great.
Yeah, those type of characters are my favorite too. Like those just those characters that just honestly just characters that teach you the way, but sometimes they're just like being that really like being mean or something like that. It's fun.
It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, that's great. Really great stuff. I also look into fan arts too, mostly, like a lot of the times. Honestly, I feel like everyone does that, but like I mean, everyone in a fan base does this. Yeah. That makes
Yeah, and listen, it's a little weird when you're a professional. People don't expect to see you. Like if I comment on fan art, people will be like, "What are you doing here?" Right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, "You're a professional." But I am a child of fandom. You know, I grew up on fanfiction.net, and Tumblr was kind of newish when I was in college, and DeviantArt when I was in high school. I am a child of fandom. You know, I was raised by, I mean, you know, it's a little hyperbolic to say I was raised by, but I was raised by fandom spaces on the internet. And very much my media diet was that when I was a kid. So to extradite myself from fandom spaces and not exist in them anymore is actually quite difficult for me. And it's kind of sad. I would love to like interact with the fandoms of things that I work on. But it does so often end up blowing up in my face or in anyone's face when they try and do that, because people can treat you weird because you are the voice, you know, of something. So it ends up not being the same experience as just being a random fandom member, which is why it has been so nice for me to be hyperfixated on In Stars in Time, because even though I unofficially voiced one of the characters on a stream, I'm not really, you know, professionally involved with this thing. So I'm just like, oh, I get to just be a part of this fandom, and I can just, you know, look at fan art and leave comments and you know, read fic if I so chose, and it's just normal and it's fine. So it's actually been quite a nice little vacation, a little escape from being a professional, where I get to go, here's a fandom where I can just be, I can just chill and I can look at fan art and I can leave supportive comments. And it brings me back to being a kid, honestly. You know, it's how I used to interact with fandom. And I kind of can't anymore. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's sort of like a stigma surrounding like popularity these days, where it's like you can't really get involved as you used to, like you mentioned. But like I don't think there should be like any contention around it, because like it's completely fine for like in your case if you go around commenting on posts being like, oh, this is cool, this is awesome, but like you said, people are like, what are you doing? But it's like, you know, like these people, as much as like they provide voice roles for us and whatnot, it's like they're still like interested in like different fandoms and communities. So I feel like it's there's just too much stigma surrounding it at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we can wrap that up. What else can you ask JackaL?
Let's see. Let me go through my list.
I've already gone through all my lists. I'm just waiting for the final question.
Okay, I have a question. I don't expect like a straightforward answer, because it's like it's kind of a hard thing. Is there any role that you've done that you kind of either like you're like, oh, why did I do that, or like, oh, I did this wrong? Like, is there sort of like a role where you feel like you just did wrong or just didn't like in general?
Yeah. I won't mention the title of the thing, because here's the thing with voice acting. It is already a huge trust thing when someone hires you to voice a character in something. You know, they are putting a lot of trust in you to do your best and to try your hardest. And so and also, you know, they chose you. So obviously there was something about you that like they liked. So to turn around and be like, I did an awful job, it's kind of a backstab, right, to those people that put their trust in you and who, they thought you were quite good, like they hired you for a reason. So you're also saying that you think their opinion is bad. So I don't want to have that sort of negativity, and I try not to. So again, I won't mention the name of the thing, but there is something I did very, very early on in my career where I didn't quite understand how important it was to practice an accent before you do it. I was like, oh, I think I'm pretty good at accents. I'll just, I'll learn it for a couple days and then I'll go do it. And I did that for something very, very, again, very early on in my career. And it was a difficult accent. It was one that, even experienced voice actors struggle with. And I just sort of was like, I think I can do it. And I did. I got the job and they were very, very sweet to me and they did like my work. But I was not ready to do that accent and I should have practiced more. And honestly, I probably shouldn't have even attempted it being such a new voice actor. That's like, an experienced voice actor again would even struggle with that accent. So that, if I was looking back and I was like, what do I regret? It was trying to do a voice actor level 10 skill when I was voice actor level 1. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm really grateful to them for hiring me, especially because I was so new. And I'm really glad that they did like my work. But if I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have even tried because it, not only was I just not ready for it, but also you walk a fine line of offending people if you perform their accent poorly, because it can sound like you're making fun of them, even though that's not your intent and you're just trying your best. Like, there is so much room for error for it to be like offensively bad, that I probably would have just told younger me, like, hey, these guys will hire you and they are really nice and, but like, don't do it. Don't do it. Probably that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
there are times where, like, I feel like that's why directors are pretty cool at the same time. It's like they hired you, right? They hired you for a reason, good reason. And if they appreciate what you do, then, they're considered a good director because, like, they know what you can do. They know what style you're going with. They just want you to be the character. So being appreciated by, like, your own, like, voice, it's pretty awesome, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's like, it's bad form to be like, this was my least favorite role. Like, I'm never going to do that. But it is also smart to look back on old things and be like, well, how could I have done that better? Or how could I have approached that better without belittling the work that did get done? Because again, if the client was happy with it, you don't want to invalidate them and be like, you were wrong for trusting me. You were wrong for hiring me. Like, that's an awful look. But it is still smart to think back on old things and be like, okay, well, like, that was good for then, but going into the future, how would I approach this better? Or how would I change the way that I audition for things to, prevent myself from doing anything that could be a bad, end result. It's just, it's one of those things you learn and you grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. JackaL, anymore?
No, I am out.
All right, we're out. So now we're finally asking the final question, which is the way we're gonna end every podcast. Do you want to say
Ooh,
anything?
The final question.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything to the audience?
To the audience. I say this a lot when I talk about, my work on kind of anything, but the as much as it can be easy to get put on a pedestal, right? Where it's like, you're the voice of a character. Oh my God, you're the official, whatever. None of that means anything without you guys, the fans. If there's no one to watch, it doesn't matter. I could voice 100 characters, but if nobody ever watches those things, it only means something to me. I can be very emotionally fulfilled by, a performance that never comes out, or, I can feel very good about a performance that I do, even if it never comes out. But in the end, the thing that gives these things any sort of notoriety or significance is the fact that it means something to you guys. And when people come up to me at cons and they're telling me about like how much they love the Amazing Digital Circus or anything else that I've been in, it really does warm my heart. And it's also humbling in a good way, to remember that like the significance of the work that I do lives and dies on you guys appreciating it and getting something out of it. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I really want to make sure that it is never understated how important the fans are. And as much as you might look at your favorite voice actor and be like, oh my God, they're so cool. Oh my God, it's so cool that they get to be the voice of this. Remember that they need you. And they are just people, and you are just as capable, if not more capable, of giving life to these characters and to their significance, through things like, again, fan art, fan songs, fic, like all of that stuff is what keeps these characters and stories alive. And the actors, we really do owe a debt to you guys. Especially when you latch onto things like the Amazing Digital Circus. Like, again, we're waiting for episode 2, right? There's not a lot for you to sink your teeth into right now. And yet every single day, someone tags me in Gangle fan art. That's incredible. There's this wellspring of creativity that you guys bring to any fandom. And that fandom breathes because of you, and when you leave it, it stops breathing. So remember every day that the actors are just one piece of the puzzle. They are not the end all be all. Do not put us on a pedestal. I love what I've gotten to experience where I just get to be down in the trenches sometimes and I'm in the middle of the fandom and I'm just watching you guys work, because the fandom in some way is the show, depending on what kind of show it is. And I think that's super beautiful, honestly, because it can keep things alive well past, when there's no new content being made. And it creates an ecosystem that I think is very important, of fans on the same level of importance as creators and as the professionals that are working on things, where they're feeding back into each other, this creative loop, that is created. It's really, really special. And I just want people who, like, let's say you want to get into voice acting or you want to get into the creative side of the industry, but you haven't quite made it yet. You're still making fandom content. I want you to always remember how important that is. Never sell yourself short on like, oh, I'm only making fan stuff. Fan stuff is so cool. And when I see cool fan stuff for things that I've worked on, it warms my heart so much. So please keep doing it. Please keep following your passions in whatever way is available to you right now. If it's fandom content now and you want to transition into professional content later, that's awesome. If you want to keep both alive forever, you want to do fandom and professional side by side, that's super cool. Follow that dream, because they are yin and yang. One does not exist without the other. And if you are ever in my position where you're in the professional side and you kind of have to keep 20 feet away from all the fandoms, even from the distance, seeing you guys' creativity, it's very inspiring. It's very inspiring. And when I am frustrated and jaded and I want to quit, sometimes it is fandom content that kind of, can pick me back up again and make me go, no, I want to take another swing at this. I want to see, the kinds of stuff that I can work on that will inspire people next. So just remember how important you are, and remember that any small contribution you give, I mean, could be the difference between someone smiling that day, be it someone who worked on the official production or just another fan. You guys are the lifeblood of some of these projects that we get to work on. So always remember that, and value the contributions that you're making to this giant weird internet ecosystem that we all live on. And I hope to see you out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fandoms definitely need to be appreciated.
Yeah.
Because as you said, they're
Oh,
kind of the
definitely.
foundation for everything. So yeah, it's important that you said that, because people need to recognize, that their work, be it
Yeah.
within or outside the
What the-
project itself.
ah.
It's really important.
When the fandom is alive,
Mm.
it fills me with so much serotonin. So
Mm.
thank you guys so much.
Hello. Okay. My mic was buffering a bit, but
I think that's it from
yeah,
me.
I was going to
Thank you guys
say-
so much for having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say that TADC
Yeah.
TADC was one of my first ever, thing that inspired me to make a fan song about it. So like that was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
You got to send that to me.
oh, okay, I will. I can send it to you.
I love fan songs. I love fan songs. I've been inspired by In Stars in Time. I kind of really want to make my first fan song. I've never done it before. But because of the Amazing Digital Circus, I have sung in a couple of other people's fan songs for the first time. And that was super cool. So I'm like super tempted now. I'm like, I want to do this. This is really cool. So yeah, I get it. I'm filled with that sort of inspirational fandom spirit right now. So I totally get where you're coming from. It's such a good feeling, right? It's such a
Yeah.
good feeling.
It's really awesome, yeah. I mean, if you're interested in fan songs, like I'm here,
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still really nervous about my singing. I sung again in these Amazing Digital Circus fan songs, and it was really, really cool, but I spent so much time trying to get my takes just perfect. So if I was to do a fan song that was just me as the lead vocalist, like, that sounds really intimidating, and like I would nitpick it to death. But maybe I'm so inspired, and it feels good to have that inspiration inside of me. So I'm super tempted, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I always give people chances, like any voice actor I know, I could just give them a chance, see what they can do, see what they can like
Mhm.
grow from it. It's really just awesome.
And it's good to start somewhere.
Yeah. But anyway,
Like as much nitpicking as there may be, like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I know that you're right, but it's always hard when you step into a new arena that it's your first time. I think it's inevitable that you'll that my perfectionism will kick into high gear.
Yeah. But anyways,
But c'est la vie. It is. It is.
yeah, it is what it is. So, this is the end of this podcast episode. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. And yeah. Oh, someone just saw.
Yeah, I'll
But yeah,
continue where he
yeah.
left. Oh yeah.
But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys in the next episode. We might probably bring
Thanks for
something big.
having me.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah, thank you, Marissa.
thank you for coming through. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.